Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, Tasmania's health system has been branded as dysfunctional after a patient died while ramped and waiting for a bed. The union says the unprecedented failure shows action is urgently needed.
The effect of ambulance ramping hitting hospitals. On Saturday morning at the LGH, a patient died, having waited all night long for a bed.
This is the first report of somebody actually dying on the ramp, which is obviously a very dire situation.
Health advocates calling for action on congested emergency departments, saying inaction has dragged on too long and it's putting patients at risk.
Ramping is happening at Tasmanian hospitals every single day, and it is leading to detrimental outcomes every day to patients.
My heart goes out to the family, of course, who've lost their loved one, and I offer my sincere condolences. And there will be, of course, a formal investigation.
Tasmania's health system is dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional for patients. It's also dysfunctional for people who work in it.
Nurses continued strike action today, walking off the job at the Mersey. With a message for the government about workloads.
Come and have a look. Come and see what we're doing. Come and see just how many extra shifts people are doing a week.
Just on my last 2 days off, there was three to four messages a day coming out asking you when you can work, so you actually never get a day off.
Staffing measures were presented by the Premier last week, including a $2,000 reward for staff who return to work, but nothing for current staff.
The proposal from Premier needs to include recognition and retention incentives for nurses and midwives.
We can and need to do better when it comes to our healthcare.
The cracks of an overburdened health system on full display. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The 16-year-old girl says her childhood memories are plagued by her mother's PTSD in fresh evidence presented on the final day of Royal Commission hearings. The interim report investigating defence and veteran suicide will be delivered to the Governor-General in Canberra tomorrow. A warning that some viewers may find this story distressing.
7 days of harrowing evidence and visible psychological suffering. The Royal Commission into Defence and Veterans Suicide wrapping up its session in Hobart.
We can't pretend to know how difficult and traumatic the process can be, but we are incredibly grateful for your strength. You should know your stories are invaluable to the progress of this inquiry.
It's a glimpse into the trauma these war veterans and their loved ones will bear for the rest of their lives. Today, hearing from an anonymous 16-year-old female whose family ties to military life distorted her views of reality.
HO1 also spoke of the impact of service upon her mother and her mother's post-traumatic stress disorder, and how these have become some of her strongest childhood memories.
Officials also speaking to the recruitment process.
I don't believe we would let candidates know about the heightened risk of suicide once they leave. We do ask them questions, direct questions around what they think it might be like to be in the military, including using weapons, killing somebody else, potentially being killed themselves.
It follows a week of personal stories shared in the hope of highlighting systematic issues within the Defence Force.
It's not usual for me to be inspecting their dead bodies. You don't know how you're going to react to a mother and a baby.
I would come home and he would be sitting in the dark under the tree, like hypervigilant.
If we do not fix it this time, we will never, ever fix it.
In the closing address, the Commissioner vowed to continue the work as they prepare for another block in Darwin.
Our work does not stop with the interim report. Our sense of urgency has not dissipated, and we remain committed to finding solutions.
A difficult week of crucial stories. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
And if you or anyone you know needs support, there are services available, including Lifeline on 13 11 14. Meanwhile, Tasmania's intensive care units are free from COVID cases for the first time in over 2 months. 669 new infections were reported today and sadly another death, taking the toll to 160. 76 patients are in hospital with the virus, 20 are being treated specifically for COVID symptoms, while active cases in the state have dropped to below 4,000. The hearing into deaths of 16 polo ponies on the Spirit of Tasmania has again faced more delays. TT Line's lawyers today took Magistrate Leanne Topfer's decision to not delay the case to the Supreme Court. They spent the majority of the day putting their arguments forward. The deaths occurred in 2018 and has since had about 16 hearings. The salvage crew has successfully been able to get the second sunken Tasports tug out of the mud. But it's not over yet, with the crew of more than 100 people running out of daylight hours to finish the delicate operation.
A mission 8 months in the making, now close to being completed.
We've lifted it up and basically what we found is the wreck itself was sitting unbalanced and unlevel in the lifting rigging equipment.
After the first sunken Tasports tug was retrieved on Sunday, it took nearly 48 hours to secure it. Now the second one is out of the mud.
This was the wreck that was actually jammed in between the wharf and the first wreck, the York Cove.
But it's not yet able to be lifted because it's unbalanced.
The salvage team have made the decision to return the wreck back down into the water. And what they'll do is they'll position it where they can successfully readjust the rigging so they can have it in balance for the next lift.
But more daylight was needed to put the last piece of the puzzle in place. The lift will resume at first light tomorrow and is expected to take 11 hours. Today, divers assessed damage to the wharf.
Until we can get the divers actually the engineers actually underwater, then we'll know the extent of the damage to the wharf.
Crews say there has been no further uncontained spills. The cost of the incident is expected to be in the millions. Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
Eastern Shore farmer and publican Gregory Brown will stand as the Liberal candidate in the Pembroke by-election. He says the key issues for the area are public transport, health and the rising cost of living.
I believe I'm a fresh voice for the area. I grew up and lived on the Eastern Shore my whole life.
Nominations for the by-election close tomorrow. Pembroke encompasses most of Hobart's Eastern Shore. There's hope for farmers looking to keep free of blueberry rust with strong leads on new organic treatments. Last week's deregulation of the fungus ended years of containment efforts with potential impacts on our exports.
For farmer Stuart Griggs, the recent deregulation of blueberry rust has a big impact. 90% of his fruit is sold to South Australia, where the fungus isn't endemic.
We're going to have to do a higher chemical regime, which obviously we don't really want to do.
He's doing everything he can to keep it out of his Castle Forbes Bay farm.
You know, it's just another hurdle now that we have to deal with to maintain our market access.
Griggs Brothers isn't organic, but for farms there's a big problem. Export protocols require 2 treatments, and there's only 1 organic one on the market. There's a lead on a second, though, coming from Tasmanian Institute of Agriculture trials.
There's a formulation of it available at the moment that's not organically certified, but we're hopeful that there'll be a new formulation soon that will be.
Tia is also working on non-chemical methods of curbing blueberry rust, and defoliation could actually be an effective method of doing that. It's being tested here at the Griggs Brothers farm on these deciduous and semi-deciduous bushes.
Seeing what the defoliants can do to the crop and how the plant recovers from that. But also we'll be doing other kinds of trials where we look at the survival of the pathogen itself.
There's also research to say cold weather might be a useful tool. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government has put forward its big-ticket infrastructure items to the dedicated federal minister ahead of the Commonwealth's May budget next year. Michael Ferguson met with Catherine King to highlight Tasmania's priority projects as they marked the official beginning of the long-awaited Bridgewater Bridge project.
This is a really important milestone. It's so lovely to be here actually seeing lots of activity, and I wish all of the hundreds of workers you're going to see on this site all the very best.
I'm pleased that both governments continue to have strong alignment in priorities.
The multi-million-dollar construction is due for completion by the end of 2024. A break-in to a much-loved attraction at Launceston City Park has prompted a health warning. Police and public health have been made aware of an incident at the monkey enclosure and are urging those responsible to seek medical attention.
An enclosure not meant for monkeying around.
An intruder was at City Park after some funds, the money that's in the moat there.
The City of Launceston Council discovering a break into the enclosure this morning. While no monkeys were injured, the electric fencing was damaged.
For somebody to be so desperate, that's sad that they would go to this extent without realising now they put themselves into a lot of danger.
The incident sparking a health alert because the monkeys have herpes B.
If they do catch it, that it could be quite serious for them because it can lead to death. So we're encouraging them to seek medical attention as soon as possible.
The enclosure has been temporarily fixed today but will need to be closed in the coming days to fix the damage.
And we know that the public actually love it and that our staff take all precautions very much when they are feeding the monkeys or with the monkeys, and that's why we enclose it, that's why we have an electric fence around it to keep people out, but unfortunately that didn't work at this time.
Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
A young gun with family ties to the NBL is among the prospects vying to become a Jack Jumpers development player. Coaching staff had their eyes on the candidates today, the top talent invited to showcase their skills on court.
High knees and high hopes for a chance at the elite level. These athletes had something to prove, stepping out to trial for the Jack Jumpers' final 3 development player spots.
It's been tough, there's a lot of good blokes around here, so I don't know, I'm just keen to get out there and scrimmage and really test myself.
With a strong basketball bloodline, big man Deng Gak was keen to leave a lasting impression.
Both of my brothers playing in the NBL now, my brother in Brisbane and my little brother in Illawarra. So it'll be really cool if we have like a little trio of Gaks in the NBL.
Several Tasmanian players were also in the lineup as coaches watched on closely for their next powerhouse.
I hate to lose, and I think that's what they look for in players, especially in the development player spot, because it's a tough role to fill and you've got to be competitive every day.
Over 150 young hopefuls initially applied to earn their spot, with the final call on these shortlisted applicants to be made in mid-September ahead of the NBL pre-season blitz.
Speaking to a lot of the guys here, they're just excited an opportunity to get in front of an NBL team and showcase their skills, and it's a credit to, there's about 17, 18 kids here that have flown themselves down here.
Superstar Will Magnay continues to battle with injury, leaving big shoes to fill.
If they can play as well and get on the floor, that's a bonus, but certainly want guys that add to our training environment.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Kelsey Griffin's return to the Launceston Tornadoes couldn't come soon enough, with a final spot on the line against Hobart. While in the men's, Jack Jumpers' friends will turn foes when the Chargers host the Northwest Thunder. Without a hint of Jack Jumpers green in sight, the Thunder's Fabian Krislovic, Matt Kenyon and Sean McDonald will try to strike lightning on the Chargers' Jared Bairstow and Sam McDaniel in Kingston.
I expect it to be very physical.
We just want to finish the season on a high.
The Thunder's rollercoaster season has fought injuries and inconsistency.
At the same time, that's created just probably a tighter culture with our guys, and we know that when someone new comes in or someone different comes in each week, they fit in seamlessly.
And they'll need that glue to stick to give the Thunder any chance of taking down the Chargers, which must win to lock in top spot.
If we can't take care of the Thunder at home, on our home floor, with a top spot for grabs, and we don't deserve to win the championships.
The Tornadoes are taking care of young gun Micah Simpson. She'll miss finals after breaking her wrist.
We've had so many injuries this year, and I think we'll just figure out ways to still help the team and be a part of the team.
She won't let anyone sign her cast because apparently no one's handwriting is nice enough. Luckily, the Tawns have been able to sign Kelsey Griffin, who returns from America for Friday's match, taking some of the pressure off Keely Froling.
The rest of our team, our average age is like 17.5, so it's a lot to ask of those girls. I think they're doing a great job, and they're doing what they can, and now we kind of bring in the reinforcements.
While Kylie McCauley is handing over to the next generation after more than 200 games at the Chargers.
Now it's time for those girls to make their bonds and their friendships so that they can, have the next decade of being amazing.
And had a fantastic season this year with career highs in assists, points and rebounds.
The Tawns must win to guarantee a spot in the finals. After starting his career at Scottsdale, Hugh Williams Sr will notch up 200 games for his adopted club North Hobart this Saturday when the D's host North Launceston. He's captained the club for more than half of those games, making him the D's second longest serving skipper behind Don McLeod in the 70s and 80s.
Tries to take on Marlon, who's the man on the mark, sets it to a dangerous...
The highlights, definitely the relationships you form along the way, and lucky enough to meet some really close mates and mentors.
And if you're wondering why Hugh Williams has the senior title in his name, it's because North Hobart has two players with exactly the same name, and they're both accountants.
There was one funny moment, I think it was against North Lonnie this year, where one of my mates overheard a couple of punters in the crowd talking and how good it was that I was able to play with my son. I'm not sure, obviously I'm getting pretty old, but I feel like I don't look that old. Pretty simple to do the maths.
He'll run out on Saturday with his actual son, Eddie, aged 18 months.
Good evening, Hobart. 14 degrees today, 12 the high in Launceston, 13 for Burnie and Devonport. Flinders Island, Friendly Beaches, Grove and Strawn also share the top with Hobart. King Island, St Helens and Bushy Park all 13, Lowhead 12. Lyre, Weenie, a late winter's burst, hitting -8 overnight. That's worth a clap. Areas of low cloud over the north today, but mostly fine and sunny conditions prevailed over Tasmania. A patch or two of cloud over the eastern seaboard and a cloud band streams over northern WA, the Territory and through South Australia. Tomorrow, the ridge is pushed away to the east with a large low heading our way, being right on our doorstep tomorrow, and you saw that cloud heading for us. North to northeasterly winds at 15 to 25 knots, reaching 30 knots over the west. They'll tend northwesterly over the west later in the day. Strong wind warning is current from Low Rocky Point up the coast to Stanley. And the icing conditions continue on the roads tomorrow, and a road weather alert is there for the Midlands and Upper Derwent Valley, but I guess being careful everywhere would be the tip. Hobart tomorrow, a high of 14 degrees, a shower or two developing, 13 for Cygnet, same sort of forecast, 14 the top for New Norfolk. Launceston 15, 4 overnight with rain on the way, rain increasing for Devonport, 13 the high and 14 the top for Campbelltown. Burnie, rain increasing, 12, 14 for Strawn, also rain for Smithton, 13 the high. And for the east coast tomorrow, 16 for St Helens, showers maybe later in the day, possibly for Swansea, 16 as well and 15 for Fingal. Friday, scattered showers mainly over the west and north, contracting to the far northwest later. Now to the weekend, and showers over the north and east on Saturday, more frequent over the Bass Strait Islands and mainly fine elsewhere, and on Sunday showers over the east extending statewide during the morning with freshening southwesterly winds. Partly cloudy in Perth, showers on the way for Adelaide, Melbourne and Canberra, 19 in Sydney and partly cloudy, fine and sunny in Brisbane, 22 the top. Bit of cloud about. Hobart currently 9 degrees, partly cloudy in Launceston 7 at the moment and 9 degrees in Devonport. Louise, great to see you in the red and white. Welcome aboard. I want to see you in the Swans gear for the rest of the week.
I'll wear black and white tomorrow night. Thanks for that, Murph. And that's all your news for now. I'll be back later on with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.